Hi, I'm Brittany Butcher, and welcome to Let's Take a Walk with Charlie Feld, brought to you by the Feld Group Institute. In this podcast, we'll dive into insightful conversations with Charlie, covering everything from critical strategic blind spots to overlooked assets that drive value every day. Today, Charlie is joined by David Trent, Senior Vice President of Business Development at Canfor. David oversees mergers and acquisitions, growth strategies, sustainability initiatives, and technology. Canfor, a global leader in the forest products industries, is one of the world's largest producers of sustainable lumber, pulp, and paper. Together, Charlie and David explore lessons learned across industries and discuss the pressing need for businesses to adapt to challenges like supply chain disruptions, labor shortages, geopolitical conflicts, and regulatory changes. David's unique blend of business acumen and technical expertise provides a blueprint for navigating these complexities and securing long-term success. Thanks for joining us. Now here's Charlie.
Hey, David, great to see you. David and I met at the Canadian National Railroad, and he was part of the IT organization. They came to the ranch and went through the framework. And then a few years later, he left and went to Canfor. And, his role has been kind of business, IT. He's one of the few people that we run into that has both backgrounds, right? And I think that's the prototypical model of the future in terms of business people learning more about IT and IT people learning more about business. So, David, if you could talk a little bit about how you built your career from when you got out of school till now, that'd be great.
For sure, Charlie, and it's a pleasure to be here and talk about that story. And I fully agree that the future is, our IT leaders understand our businesses, and our business leaders understand IT, at least the capabilities that are needed from IT for their business. So I'm going to go even before sort of university here. I grew up just east of Toronto, son of an entrepreneur that actually had a manufacturing business. My father would take me in all summer long and have me work in all of the different departments. So whether I was writing an accounting ledger entry in an old blue book, or making a sales call, or understanding how we made our products and shipped our products, that's what I learned as a young child. At the same time, I was really a child at the dawn of the computer age, and loved math. And I think, regrettably, I have to admit that I went to computer camp in grade three. Um, but but really, those two aspects of my upbringing and my passion have really underpinned my whole career, which was I always understood how a business ran, collected cash, and made money.
Mhm.
And I always had an intense passion and curiosity for how advancement in technology can improve that business and that business's ability to generate cash and earnings and
Mhm.
grow. Um, I finished high school at the dawn of the age of the internet, built my own consultancy that helped companies really just start learning and taking advantage of the internet. Today, they'd be called digital agencies. Um, and then decided, I really had a fork in the road. I could go back and be part of the family company, or I could go on and do something a little different and understand what the world of growth in large corporations look like. And I spent many years in development, so software development. So I actually academically got a degree in economics and finance, but minored in computer science. So I could be a developer, and at the same time, I could look at a balance sheet and an income statement and understand what it was.
Mhm.
And I grew my career and learned many bumps along the way, through management of technology, all of the various disciplines, whether it be infrastructure, development, project and program management, the team leadership, and then eventually the product leadership and the real sort of leadership. When you met me at CN, being the chief digital officer for an extremely large railway and user of technology. And you touched on it, and sort of coming here to Canfor and what my role is here today. I still maintain stewardship of the technology function, and driving it forward. It's the most enjoyable part of my job. But I've had some new additions. So taking on, you know, business development, so mergers and acquisitions, strategy here at Canfor. So it's really starting to play on both that passion for technology, but also that deep understanding of how a business runs, how it makes money, how it competes. And though my whole career has been spent in the technology function, I have always really focused on our business and what makes our business make money, what impacts to the world will change that business. Part of that comes from the economics degree that I received and how I look at the macro world.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that just comes from curiosity as well as training. So after university and after several years in a seat as an IT leader, certainly my boss at the time said, you need to continue to develop yourself as an executive. And part of that is just understanding some of the more complexities of how a business runs. So your choice, go do an accounting designation or go do an MBA, but you need to go do one.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to actually do the accounting designation, because having come from a family business, having been in business, I didn't feel I needed, those three letters in a broader program. I wanted to actually go a little bit deeper into accounting, and not a general ledger entry and a debit and a credit of how you accrue for a bond, but
Mm-hmm.
how do you deeply think about the earnings profile of a company? What are the gauges that you look at beyond just the earnings profile to understand how healthy it is and how not? How do you think very, very critically about competencies and capabilities that give you competitive advantage as you define your strategy? And so I
Mm-hmm.
went off and learned that academically, and certainly now practice that here at Canfor. So that's just a little bit about the story, Charlie. It's sort of passion and obsession of technology and how it brings business forward, but at the same time making sure that I'm constantly grounding myself in what exactly is our business, how do we think about it, how do we grow it, what are the risks, what are the broader factors in the world around us that we need to pay attention to.
Yep. Yeah, I think the that's pretty exciting that you've been doing it for a very long period of time. Most people specialize in business within business, marketing, sales. The functionalization of business has led people to a fairly narrow path. As you move up, you learn more about more functions until you get to run the whole thing. But one of the function that's been a blind spot, in fact, I wrote a book about it, is IT to business leaders, right? And IT is got to become a big part of the portfolio of knowledge and instinct that business leaders have. But on the other hand, business really needs to become instinctive, and every IT leader needs to learn how a business makes money going forward. And a big part of the reason is we've grown from back office, where you really didn't have to understand the business, but it was functional, to mid office, to front of house, to now we're really at the edge and are a fabric of the company, right? And being able to sell your ideas into a functionally led business operation, right, is very difficult if you don't understand how the business works. So, have you been in environments where you've moved around, but now that you're in a leadership position, are you working on moving some of your leaders around, either within IT or from IT to business, or some of your business leaders into IT to get that blend?
And it's a great perspective, Charlie. And I'm a big believer when I think about just the talent in a company, especially the talent that you believe is going to continue to grow in the company, that you move them across functions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if people are truly talented, they're They have an ability to learn. They can learn 90% of the functions in any business and be
Right.
able and I encourage both our IT leaders to learn our business, but our business leaders to learn on IT. One of the
Hmm.
best examples actually is one that we did when I originally joined, where I came into the Canfor. We had a digital strategy. It was very long. It was very broad. It had a lot of great ideas, but it was missing a few elements of the models that, I'd certainly learned with the Feld group and learned through my own bumps and bruises in my career.
Hmm.
And what we did is brought the senior leaders, not just of our technology function, but the senior leaders of our business into the room together. And we gave them the same kind of training and education. And then we unleashed them on the problem definition and the ability tos that would move the needle. And we
Hmm.
saw some spectacular results. And
Yeah.
I recall this third generation sawmiller coming to me after the end of I can't recall whether it was the first or second day of the session. He looked at me and said, David, now I get it. Now I get what the technology function needs from me and what I need from the technology function.
Yeah.
And a lot of it rests on, at the end of the day, if you think very broadly about a company, each company is a unique set of capabilities that allows it to compete in a market where a customer purchases the service or the product for more than which it costs you to make it, and you're able to compete in the world, and drive returns. And so he came and said, now I know the abilities that I need for my sawmills. Like
Hmm.
now I can define it at a level, and the IT folks that are here listening to me can understand my business well enough, and they know all the technology bits. We can come together and create something that's going to be truly unique and really help us. But you have to come at least with some of the same training vocabulary and understanding what good looks like. So that's one thing that we have done, and we've certainly moved some of our business leaders. In fact, I've got a high potential business leader that we've moved into, I'll say a pseudo technical role.
Hmm.
And we moved him in there because we knew he could learn it, but we also wanted to see him execute initiatives at scale, as he grew, and we do that very purposely. And you do take risk, but businesses taking calculated risks, and you should take calculated risks on your people.
Yeah. I think the one thing that is beginning to happen in this AI era and the edge technology explosion is people are starting to see uh, the more complex cause and effect of things. I know when we went through, the issues that you're having is, you can't get the supply from this side of the country, so you're going to go to the other side of the country. And those decisions are being made. So, things that are in the news every day, whether it's a strike or a, supply chain shortage or a labor shortage, things you can't depend on, right? In a world that is more fixed, less fluid, less dynamic, IT, AI have got to be able to step in and help the human being, because it's the separation of something happens in China or one part of the globe or in the Red Sea, and you have operational problems. So the ability to be able to sense and respond was, I know, something you guys were going after, and that was just great conversation.
It is, Charlie, and for the folks watching, um, you know, Canfor is our primary product is dimensional lumber. Um, but in terms of the scale of that, we on a weekly basis ship on the order of 20 to 25,000 homes worth of wood per week. So it's enormous. And we operate in Western Canada. We operate all across the U.S. South. We operate in Sweden. That's where we produce. We sell our product all over the world. So
Mhm.
when the Red Sea is cut off in container traffic, I can't get our Swedish product to Japan.
Mhm.
If I have a East Coast port strike that is looming, I can't bring my Swedish product, into the ports in the East Coast and the Gulf Coast of the U.S. And similarly, I can't get some of my wood out of the U.S. to other outbound customers. So so we have a tremendously complex supply chain. We took a lot of time and care to make sure that we had the right base layer of data across all of our organization. And now we have some of the abilities to look at and sense when certain events happen, what will happen to pricing, what will happen to demand, certainly for key customers of ours that we want to protect. Where might we source that product from? How long will it get there? What other side effects it will have? It's given us the ability to build models on top of that data that allow us to react as a business to really what are the unknowns, which is,
Yeah.
well, what might happen geopolitically, what might happen with labor, what might happen with natural disasters.
Yeah. Yeah. The hurricanes in North Carolina, just you hear about the shortages of supplies to rebuild the homes, and the hurricanes in Florida were being fixed 3 years later. They still weren't done because when COVID hit, the supply chains broke down. So these dependencies and the ability to make decisions is why people should be investing in the modern technology to aid in a very complex world, right? So, I watched your folks work on that. Another business, which I'm sure you use, is a railroad, which has fixed equipment, right? And fixed schedules and snowstorms. And so as everything moves from being a simple regional local business model to a complex global model, right? The ability to merge business and technology as a fabric, as opposed to a functional solution, but the ability to sense and respond is something that you're on the forefront of. And I think most of the companies really need to begin to think about how they're going to leverage this next generation. This is as fundamentally different as the mainframe was from, the way business was done before. And as the internet was, it's a model shift. And we're going through that now. It started a couple of years ago, and over the next decade, there'll be winners and losers. If they can't figure out how to compete in the global world, we're gonna have companies in trouble. There'll be more Sears and Blockbusters and Kodaks going on here. So, well, David, I appreciate this conversation. I'd love to have a longer conversation with you, and maybe we can do that over time. But I think we've got to start building people that understand not just business and technology, but economics, macroeconomics, regulatory thing. There's so much that influences which businesses are going to be successful and which not. And I really am excited of not just you, but the way you're managing your team and developing people at Canfor. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Charlie.